on the daily and suffer from chronic back pain from bending down too much, for standing for too long. Today is about women like my mom, who came to this country searching for more, whose love is so selfless. And to this day, I am still in awe of her power, because somehow she was able to raise 4 kids by herself. All of my life, she's worked 2 jobs, and she still continues to work 2 jobs to this day at the age of 52, and she's working 18 hours a day. And although she couldn't make it to this strike, she is actually preparing for a strike at her workplace. So give it up for my mom. She's so badass, and I wish she was here, but I know that I make her proud. So the reason why I bring her up is because I want to acknowledge the people that should be here, but are unable to come. The trans woman and the fans who should be next to us. I also want to take up space for women who, like my mom, live with disabilities and are here with us in spirit. Anyway, shifting over now to the gist of the speech. I want to share with you a love letter. This love letter is very painful, but it's also very necessary. This is a love letter to all of the employers that have ever had the pleasure of having me on their staff. The pleasure. But most importantly, this is dedicated to the employers that taught me that all my fucking problems are rooted in capitalism and patriarchy. Ready for this? Dear employers, do you know what it's like being brown in Portland? It means that because of the color of my skin and my gender, you pay me less than anyone else in the office. It means that you hired me for being bilingual, but you refuse to pay my worth. It is so frustrating to constantly be tokenized by you and the rest of the staff whenever they don't know how to say something in Spanish. If you want to use my translation skills, pay me for it. It means that if I added up all of the hours of emotional labor that I have done for your staff, I would be making more money than the actual job that I do for you. It means that while you have the privilege to bike to work and get your exercise of the day, I am on my way to work for you on the bus, scared to sit next to a white person, because I'm traumatized. I am afraid to get stabbed to death by Nazis. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I should even attempt to look more white, sound more white, so that I can make it to work alive. No. Of course I don't, but I wonder. we know. Trust me. Oh shit.
All right, thank you, sis. Come on, keep it going. We love it. That's right. Find your place. That's right.
It means that if you fail to pay me on time, I have no money for food. I have no money for transportation. You strip me away from my basic necessities, from my basic needs, and they're not being met. You make me feel less than human. Do you know what it's like to feel less than human? Dear employers, what do you know about intergenerational trauma? I come from a lineage that was almost extinct. My ancestors were raped. They were forced into slavery. forced to lose their indigenous language, forced to assimilate. Do you know about the trauma of slaves? That my body aches so much on a daily basis, especially when I menstruate. You see, I carry the trauma, but it's not just my trauma. It is my mother's trauma. It is my mother's mother's trauma, and all the mothers before her. This pain, this trauma has been carried by las mujeres in the family for centuries. And it's not just me. It is every single Mexica person. It is every single indigenous person. It is every single black person. This is a pain that we all know too well. It is the pain of rape. It is the pain of heartache. It is the pain of fucking borders. Do you know that I constantly fear for my mental health? That I've been labeled as crazy or for being too emotional. Here's my question for you. Why are you scared of being emotional? Dear employers, we know that we're smarter than you. It's true. We know that we're smarter than you because we have had to fight for survival every single day. But most importantly, employers, we know 4 things. We know that you're scared of us. We know we intimidate you. We know you get confused when we try to hold you accountable to your actions and your oppressive words. And finally, we know we will no longer be your martyrs.
Stay right here one more time. Oh my goodness. So, stay here with me. Okay, so, as we honor the work and the art of people who share their stories about immigrating here because of what the U.S. has done to make it so that they have to, that this is their only viable option. And so you're here, and we're glad that you're here. But God damn it, you shouldn't have to. Okay, so we want to uplift the work of people who do global justice because this is an international women's strike. So I want to bring up one of the organizations in this town that are doing some of the best work around global justice, particularly through the lens of the struggle of the people in the Philippines. The Philippines is lit, and so is the next speaker who's going to come up. Gabriela Portland is going to be holding down the back of the march so nobody gets left behind. That's not the only good work that they do. I'm going to let her speak for herself. Angelica Lim, the best hair in Portland, is going to be here. Okay, tell them a little something, Angelica. We love you.
Warm militant greetings, Portland. Y'all are militant and fierce and building the women's movement all over the world. You are contributing to today's historical International Working Women's Day. Let us not forget the working aspect of International Working Women's Day. Let's go. So Gabriela Portland is honored to be here amongst many fighters and survivors, activists and organizers, people for change, people who are refusing the status quo and are committed to the ultimate liberation of all oppressed peoples. We commend your will to fight, and we need you to be here, and your commitment to see this victory through is imperative to win the struggle against capitalism and imperialism. On this 110th anniversary of International Working Women's Day, we recognize the complete contribution of many working women, working African, Black, Asian, indigenous, queer, and trans, disabled women, women who are teachers, factory workers, caregivers, overseas Filipino workers. We recognize women who cannot be here or working. We recognize hospitality workers, mothers, grandmothers, all who have sacrificed so much for a better life in a system that continually exploits their lives and their labor. We're about to go into the Philippines. Come with us. Currently in the Philippines, women under Duterte, the Duterte regime feel the brunt of the continuous misogynistic exploitation. This is a system of deep feudal patriarchy, capitalism, and imperialism, and is tied to an ongoing connection that we should all know about. The U.S. government, under Trump's foul fascism, continues to corroborate with the Philippine government and is in control of the oppression of Filipino women, denying our people their basic right to land, livelihood, and justice. Every day, 30,000 Filipino women are forced to leave the Philippines based on lack of self-industrialization. Women are leaving their families, touring to live in the United States, to raise other people's families, watching their Filipino children on Skype and FaceTime, not knowing when they're going to see their children next. What kind of life is this? What kind of are we allowing this to happen? Are we allowing this to happen? We deserve basic rights and dignity, and for women and children to be with one another, for families to be with one another. Other things, okay, let's go back in. Okay.
We love you.
Here we are. There's also something else you should know. Currently, the U.S. occupies the Philippines and uses Filipino women, trans Filipino women, for their bodies for rest and relaxation, and Filipino women are forced to be into this labor. And this is not acceptable. The U.S. is not welcome in the Philippines, and this should be known. Today, alongside many freedom fighters all over the world, including our sisters in the Philippines, we choose to rise, resist, and unite. We rise against a fascist dictatorship under both the U.S. Duterte regime that continue to invest into anti-women and anti-people policies. We rise against these foul leaders that continually spew misogynist venom from their mouths, creating a culture that threatens violence and death. We resist U.S. wars of aggression that occupy so many countries to protect the 1% and gaining more wealth and leaving devastating effects from land grabbing, displacing indigenous women and families, killing human rights defenders who are just looking for accountability from systems of oppression. And today, we rise and unite alongside continual fighters all over the world who dare to struggle and dare to fight for a life that we all deserve. We rise alongside liberation struggles in Syria, Palestine, Indonesia, India, all parts of Africa, all the way to liberation struggles here in the United States, Black and Indigenous, Asian struggles. The enemies of these struggles are capitalism, my friends, and imperialism. We must understand this. We must also understand that these struggles are led by women from the margins, women who have no choice but to fight, women who have absolutely everything to win. We call on you as freedom-loving people to wage the momentum of this strike and join the struggle and put it into organizing. Organize with Gabriela, organize with the Filipino people, organize for all oppressed people. Learn from one another and connect your struggles against capitalism and imperialism. Thank you very much. Do you want to do a chant? We have this chant. Some of us socialists have this chant. It's called, I'm going to say something and you're going to repeat it, okay? So I'm going to say, it is our duty to fight, and you'll say, it is our duty to fight. It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other.
And protect each other.
And protect each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.